After 4.5 long years, From Software's epic trilogy of action RPGs is most likely coming to an end, and for some, the journey has gone longer with the likes of Demon's Souls. It's been about 5 years since the first time I picked up a From Software title, and video games have never been the same. I think it's absolutely fair to put From Software in the pantheon of legendary game developers for their work on the Dark Souls franchise. I can't think of many games that have gone from cult followings to major mainstream success, and From Software has facilitated the need for more accessible gameplay and storytelling. While a part of me misses the small community gatherings and the notoriously hardcore fan base, I smile at the thought of possibly millions of new fans joining the fray with Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3. From Software has poured a lot into their beloved franchise, and finally we've come to this grand conclusion. I've heard a lot of fans say that Dark Souls 3 is the greatest hits of everything that we've loved about the past Souls games, and I'd say it's a very apt description. The combat is aggressive, but still retains the chess-like strategy of its predecessors. Its storytelling and all of its narrative components are more straightforward for the most part, but I assure you there are many secrets and hidden gems to keep nosy fans like me satisfied. Its world shares a connected layout mostly akin to Dark Souls, but still manages to help guide you along a bit instead of the mostly free reign you had in Dark Souls. Bloodborne was incredibly pleasing to the eyes. Its gothic, cosmic horror-inspired world was so enticing and unique, and Dark Souls 3 is no different, especially for the longtime fans. It's only fitting that the epic inclusion is filled to the brim with mind-blowing architecture and sometimes blatant connections to the original's bleak, beaten-down lordry. From grandiose set pieces to areas so far off the beaten path you'll either turn your brain to soup trying to figure it out or resort to a wiki to get there, there are several moments in Lothric that left me standing still in awe, soaking in the masterfully designed world. But fear not, Ashen One. Dark Souls isn't just a pretty face, it's Dark Souls combat at its very best. FromSoft has no doubt learned a lot over the course of 5 games, and it really shows. As someone who's a bit underwhelmed by Bloodborne's combat and lasting appeal, Dark Souls 3 quickly soothed my soul with fierce, gripping combat and an abundance of unique and brilliant weapons. New mechanics like weapon arts and the FP meter add an extra level of strategy to the already tedious Dark Souls format. And from the hilariously over-the-top to the most badass-looking set of gear, Dark Souls 3 also offers a wide array of outfits, which I'll admit, collecting and mixing outfits has always been one of my favorite parts of these games. Bosses are another key element to the Dark Souls experience. Manus, Artorias, and the ever-popular Executioner Smo and Dragon Slayer Ornstein sit atop the golden throne of Dark Souls boss battles, and overall, Dark Souls 3's list of bosses is a good one. However, there are a few disappointingly underwhelming candidates on the list. Some interesting mechanics are used this time around, and they add an extra level of depth to a fight, but they don't always pay off. Several find the weak spot and beat it to a pulp fights can be found in Lothric, and while it may throw you for a loop initially, once uncovered they go from frantic puzzles to pushovers real quick. Despite some lackluster boss fights in a somewhat restrained world, Dark Souls 3 is an overwhelmingly satisfying conclusion to the Dark Souls trilogy. Weapon arts and a deep armory allow for creative combat without cheapening its strategic swordplay. Lothric's breathtaking design and fiercely fun multiplayer make it probably the best game From Software's ever made. I cannot wait to see what Miyazaki comes up with next.